Good morning to you. Today I have hauled out my book 100 Glorious Days because there's so much talk about glory and revival and moving of God. I thought, let me have a look through it. I found this one, it's a devotional, day 62. The title is Break Forth. And it comes from Isaiah 55, where it says, "Sing, O barren, you who have not borne, break forth into singing and cry aloud. You who have not labored with child, for more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married woman, says the Lord. Enlarge the place of your tent and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not spare, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes." That is Isaiah 54, 1 and 2. This break forth into singing and cry aloud was a prophetic word spoken to the Israelites in a time of captivity. The enemy was holding them captive, and God was sending them a word of hope, if you read through Isaiah 54, that they would be rescued, released, and restored. That's what this is about. But now, have you ever felt you're stuck? You've got all the dreams, but they're way out there. You've got all the promises, but everything is opposite to what God has said. And then this instruction comes, cry aloud. What does it say? Break forth into singing and cry aloud. It's the last thing you feel like doing. But that's when it's needed the most. I don't have to tell you that. But now I'm going to read a little bit out of this. How do you break forth into singing and cry aloud at the same time? Especially when you're told to do this while you're still in a place you don't want to be. Nobody wants to be stuck. Nobody wants to be in a time of transition. Maybe you do because you know on the other side there's growth, there's increase. You're limited by lack and restricted by rules placed on you by another nation. This is exactly what the Israelites were going through. But God says to expect to see the increase. God says, think my thoughts, see what I see. It's only when we can do those things, expect to see increase, because we are not called to live in limitation or be barren, unfruitful, not seeing any progress, not seeing any success in our lives. We're not called to live that way. So when God says, break forth into singing and cry aloud, it's because he knows there's something better that he has than where you are right now. So God, when we can expect to see the increase, when we can begin to think God's thoughts, even though we feel opposite, and then we can see what he sees, then we can break forth into singing and cry aloud, because then you're going to get to the place where you're going to recognize this is the enemy. If you're not in a time of transition where you're being pruned kindly by God because he's preparing you for more, but if the enemy is restricting you and trying to keep you in bondage, trying to keep you in fear and slavery, and God comes along and he says, break forth into singing and cry aloud, for more, there's more. You're going to expand to the left and to the right. Your descendants will inherit the nations. And there's all kinds of promises in Isaiah 54. And he says, do not spare, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. You're not going to be embarrassed when you trust God. So God says that because he knows that when the enemy is trying to restrict his people, if we will just begin to get with his plan, begin to see what he sees, there's joy and praise that will come out of us. And that breaks the shackles off the enemy. That disables the power of the enemy who wants to keep you restricted and keep you from walking in your inheritance, which is increase. Occupy till he comes. Take the kingdom wherever you go. Possess the promises. But listen to this. To cry aloud in Isaiah 54 is translated as to rejoice. So when it's not cry aloud and feel sorry for yourself and cry so loudly hoping that God will hear you or somebody else will hear you and they'll come and deliver you. It means to rejoice. So when God says break forth into singing and cry aloud, he's saying break forth. Come on, come out of this place of pity, worry, anxiety, fear, discouragement, hopelessness, depression. Come out of this place, break out of this place by rejoicing. And then the other way that cry aloud is translated is to make to shine. So it's not really what we do when we feel frustrated. We don't feel all shiny and all happy and rejoicing. We want to have a good cry. We want to feel sorry for ourselves, hoping that God will join our pity party, I'm reading, and do something to make us feel better. But instead, he tells us here in the middle of the pity party, come on, begin to cry aloud. Begin to release the concerns to me by rejoicing that I'm going to step into the battle with you and I'm going to help you to break out. You're never expected to break out on your own. God always sends help. He sends a word. He sends strength. He sends courage. And then when you begin to rejoice, there's no more pity party. And everybody who was watching you have your pity party begins to rejoice with you because they can see, oh, wow, this person must have heard something from God. This person is rejoicing no matter what their circumstances are like. This is where our strength comes from. Why do you think the word says the joy of the Lord is your strength? Because when you begin to rejoice, there's some breaking forth and breaking out that begins to happen. All those limitations of the enemy, the walls come tumbling down. It's like the Jericho walls. They were given these strange instructions, Joshua. March around, and then on a certain day, you're going to break the jars and you're going to shout aloud. And that's when the walls came down. The instructions are always strange instructions. So it's during these times that's when we make the sound of faith, that the glory of God is revealed. And the glory of God is revealed when God begins to do things. So sing, O barren. Begin to rejoice today. And you have a fantastic day today. There's more coming for you.